The construction industry is one of New Jersey's largest, providing thousands of jobs and millions of dollars to the state's economy, even during the recent economic slump. Well, tonight, producer Janice Sellinger and Kent Manahan take a look at the state's construction industry and alleged ties to organized crime.
New Jersey experienced a construction boom following World War II. Office buildings, highways, single-family houses, and apartment complexes sprang up where farm fields, swamplands, and woods used to be. In addition to creating jobs for construction workers and contractors, these projects, according to a recent study by the State Commission of Investigation, opened the door for an organized crime network of labor agents, middlemen who guarantee contractors labor peace.
The power that they have comes through the association of a person like Cavalcanti or Gambino. The mention of a name to some developers, a name such as Gambino, was enough to convince the developer that he'd better deal with that person if he wanted to keep his job going.
In its study, the SCI reviewed organized crime's role in the home construction industry going back some 30 years, during which time the Carlo Gambino crime family and reputed mobster Sam the Plumber de Cavalcante were in power. The commission found that since 1980, organized crime's influence in the industry has waned, partly because of the recent high cost of money and the subsequent construction slowdown. But the construction boom is still taking place in New Jersey, largely in Atlantic City. And it's here, on the work sites, where law enforcement officials say organized crime sometimes becomes involved. Roofers Local 30, under the direction of the late President John McCullough, has had a rather checkered past. An often violent union through McCullough, Local 30 allegedly controlled all of the building construction trades in Atlantic City, with the approval of Philadelphia crime boss Angelo Bruno. After Bruno's murder, McCullough lost much of his power. Then he, too, was killed. Law enforcement and the unions disagree over why McCullough was killed. Law enforcement officials say it was a power struggle with warring mob factions over Atlantic City. Labor leaders say it was because McCullough stood up to the mob.
In the case of John McCullough being shot, I would have to assume, looking at that situation, that if organized crime is involved, they did not want John McCullough organizing the workers into a very strong, good union. And that would demonstrate that Roofers 30 probably had no connections with organized crime.
However, law enforcement officials and incorporation papers filed with the Secretary of State's office point to organized crime ties with some of Atlantic City's small construction companies. NatNat Incorporated, a subcontractor which specializes in ironwork, has as its registered agent Salvatore Merlino, reputed Bruno crime family underboss to Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo. Scarfo, the alleged Philadelphia and Atlantic City crime boss, is currently serving a 2-year federal prison term in Texas for a 1981 weapons charge. Scarf Inc., or Scarf Concrete Corporation, is run out of Scarfo's mother's house by Philip Leonetti, Scarfo's nephew. Not all unions, of course, are associated with organized crime. But a union doesn't have to have a mob connection to be powerful. There are 13 construction trade unions in New Jersey with almost 100,000 unionized workers. On most construction jobs, union cooperation is the difference between a profit or loss for the contractor. And all too often, the unions make that very clear. Wayne Comer is a Newark FBI agent who has investigated questionable activity within the construction industry for 10 years. He detailed for us some of the ways unions can make contractors play the game their way.
The older workers, the sick workers, the workers who don't want to work. An actual job slowdown, an actual slowdown of work. Mistakes being made on the job, where the workers will put up a wall in the wrong place. And the wall has to come down and then be put back up together again. Those types of examples in which the union has a stranglehold on the contractor, it's a very subtle type thing. And it's not so much that they don't necessarily use the words where the union representative is going to explain to the contractor, you pay me $5,000 and then I'll take care of you. Sometimes that is the case.
Because of these kinds of activity, the construction industry has attained a rather questionable reputation. There is a widespread impression that corruption permeates the industry, driving up the cost of housing and commercial construction and making payoffs part of the routine cost of doing business.
I have said that if you're a contractor in this country, you're suspect. If you're a contractor from New Jersey, you're indictable. And if you're an Italian contractor from New Jersey, you're convicted.
In 1981, allegations surfaced that Secretary Donovan knew and had dealings with organized crime figures while executive vice president of Schiavone Construction Company, a large Secaucus-based firm. There were also allegations of payoffs where Donovan was reportedly present. Many of those allegations were made by this man, Mario Monturo, former Secretary-Treasurer of Local 29 of the Blasters, Drillers, and Miners Union. A special prosecutor found no grounds to indict Donovan, but recently reopened the investigation on related charges. Of the original charges, only one was found by the special prosecutor to be true: the existence of no-show employees on the Schiavone payroll.
Well, on these jobs, I mean, you have 250 or 350 people on a job, an underground project at various stages of construction. It is not too difficult for a foreman to falsify reports. We have, as other companies do, a system of checks and balances like a surprise audit where everybody must identify themselves. But it's an imperfect system and it can be beaten, and in this case it was.
Donovan's accuser, Mario Monturo, told us that no-show jobs are just one of the ways a union operates. Many times, Monturo said, a union isn't strong enough to stand on its own.
If a union ain't connected or controlled by organized crime, not that it's nothing wrong, because in one way it's good. Other unions, if there was no involvement in one union, that he wasn't connected to organized crime, all the other unions that are connected, or big unions that ain't connected, they'd take over this union. They'll push the union around and the union won't have nothing. But if they know that this union is connected with organized crime, or if it is or not, they're not going to go near it.
Donald Kennedy, president of the Mercer County Building Trades Council, denies illegal union activities or organized crime connections exist within New Jersey's unions.
No, I think the construction industry in New Jersey has, for the most part, has demonstrated it is much cleaner than in many other parts of the country.
Members of the State Commission of Investigation acknowledge that mob influence has been waning in New Jersey's construction industry recently because the building business is so slow. But they warn the reprieve may be only temporary.
It's probably only being held in abeyance, and that if the construction industry booms again, this will reemerge. It's a very virulent strain, this kind of activity, and we are convinced that it will recur if the economy turns around and construction commences again.
In the meantime, Commission members are recommending reforms to help prevent the resurgence of organized crime activity in the construction industry. They would like to see a state law requiring that labor agents register with the state and file annual financial reports. The SCI contends that would give the labor community a sense of confidence.